Good afternoon. Welcome back. We finished the day as we left it off, except there's a lot of interesting shit that happened. Looking at the average, the former is what happened. Basically, a sideways trading day, hung out. Not much. There wasn't much. You sat here, you finished up on the S&P. Okay. NASDAQ finished a little bit lower. This is mostly due to the open. It was actually up intraday. Break even on the day. The Dow, boring as ever, just as boring, looking pretty strong still. Small caps, regional banks did pretty well, and so this number, albeit it's sold in the open, again, this is not really a good representation. We actually saw regional banks and the like actually do pretty well today. Those actually were pretty steady. Banks overall, coming into earnings on Wednesday, were probably the best looking overall sector, up from the open. Bets coming through, continuing the trend that it's on. This has been trending this whole time, so it's more than just earnings, right? I mean, obviously earnings come up here on Wednesday. It's important that we see banks continue to do well, but they actually are the true kind of growth winners if we put growth in the perspective of inflation and rising interest rates, right? Banks do well there. So again, we already know that they've been doing well trading. This is really a sector that's continued to do well. It's been our benchmark since we started trading value. Besides a pullback here, we've been doing very well there. So banks did very well today. Now, again, so the benchmark, I mean, the overall, the average was flat on the day. Not much happened, right? Whoa, there was quite a bit of stuff that happened today. If we take a look, let's start off with the BABA trade. We put bets on China to do well again this Monday. We got a big move on BABA, and again, more than just the on the onset of a gap, it's continuing here. This is almost 9.5% on the day. This is certainly you hold the value there from the open. Again, you take profit on your April monthlies and your really short terms like that, right? You're never going to leave it on the table. But like I said from the open, we're looking for this trade to go from this point and reclaim some highs. The same way that we're expecting the Hang Seng itself in China to do that. Now we have this was again due to some of the regulations coming off. We expect that to happen. I mean, the market expects that to happen overall, and so some of these should continue. This is a nice start here. This is a nice trade. That would have been your one trade that you were like, okay, well, that was a give me, so we'll take it, right? What else happened? Semiconductors, completely a mess today. But our semiconductor, the NVIDIA trade, looking very, very good. Again, there's some news that came in through here. It doesn't really change the tune of exactly what's been going on here with this trend. Now, most semis have had this move. This really took over the rest. So you did need to do some legwork today in terms of when this started to go. If we take a look at the 15-minute, the way in which this happens at lunch, certainly if you're not here and you're not trading, this could have been a tumultuous time. Now we know AMD has not been as good, but you don't know that it's going to be like this. So you have to be prepared when that starts to happen. As soon as that starts to happen, you have to start to make decisions. Now, this already lends itself to being ready to make a decision, right? It's not like you were it's not that we were not in a situation where we wouldn't keep pushing the position. We know we're willing to keep pushing this position as we talked about last week, but you know you're sensitive here. You know you're sensitive because I took this trade down here at the low, and we had to take this trade multiple times for all semis. We kept getting stopped out at different times, and then the growth market really continued and started doing well, but we knew semiconductors were not moving at the same pace. And so then over here, the dojis across, as soon as that comes in, there should be some sort of trigger that is going off across the board when you look at that. It doesn't really matter if you read the news or not. If the price is moving in a certain way, you have to make a decision. This is the kind of situation here where I will take a decision. Now, I also kind of did my own flavor, and that's why I want to kind of put a little perspective on this. As soon as that started to happen, I exited that position, took profit. This was a great trade. Okay, this is a great trade from the low to here, from there to there. Again, you're trying to push this to continue it. Again, you don't really know how much more you're going to continue. All of some of these were looking pretty good. We already opened lower. So as soon as it started to really come down, it's time to get out of the position. Now, what I did though was I put positions on here at the low. I put positions on here at close because, again, where did the points come in? They don't come in intraday. They come in after hours when the market's not open. I put the trade in here at the low going into close. We'll see if that pays off tomorrow. These are short-term trades betting that the price will open up higher. Reason being is there's a level of supply in here. The zone, I'm guessing that, or I'm betting on that the price is going to open above this level, which is going to cause a very similar reaction to this over here, this candle back on the 1st, April Fool's Day. I'm expecting something very similar to this. That's 2.5%. That's 2.5%, and on April monthlies, that's about $1 billion. So that's going to be interesting. All semiconductors across the board, INTC, for instance, direct news base against INTC. NVIDIA going out for servers. INTC is the server boys. NVIDIA is more, retail. Intel has always been for the big boys. So that's where this candle comes from. Again, it doesn't really take much to realize that there might be a situation there. What did I do here? The exact same thing. This starts to happen. You're never going to be perfect. You're going to have to get out at some point. Again, we've been pushing this trade, and this is a part of the Dow play as well. So my position was a little bit more kind of difficult because I had to exit quite a bit of a position. But what I was able to do was at least hold some of the long terms and put new positions on here at the low as well. This is not easy trading. We'll see if it pays off. Again, you're closing right above right below a level. This is a news-based trade. News can affect things in a very quick amount of time, but it doesn't change the overall price. And so the price overall has been trending this way, right? I'm able to get out of some of the position, right? And then continue my position by taking a new better average down here, right? If I want to add onto this position, how do I add onto it? I add onto it on pullbacks. This is a pullback. That's 4%. It was more than 4%. It was 4.5%. That's a pullback opportunity to buy. You don't need to hit this trade every time. We've already hit this trade. This is a sort of a double up. And so if you're able to now increase that core position at this level here, then that's perfect, right? And so we'll see how these pay off. Again, all across the board, semis were sort of all over the place. I was asking, now, again, you can see how the difference between some of these, right? When you look at the Taiwan side, TSM and UMC barely moved because, again, this is more of a direct domestic competitor sort of news thing. So not that that really matters, but you obviously didn't have to get shaken out of these positions if you were here. Now, there's still some stipulation on exactly what the hell is going on with this $50 billion for semiconductors. I think that could definitely change some tones of what exactly is going on. I mean, it might be one of the funniest things, but we had Donald Trump for his presidency saying he wants to bring back jobs to the United States. And so what he did was put tariffs on, which completely fucked with all the prices of everything and did not bring jobs back to the United States. If they do this $50 billion to bring back manufacturing of semiconductors in the United States, and Biden does it, and then all the Trump supporters go, wait, Biden did what Trump was going to do. And then it's like, well, why didn't Trump do it? Why did he put tariffs instead of just actually paying people to do this shit? This would be one of the funniest things because you bring back with a blue wave, you bring back manufacturing jobs to the United States, which is such a Republican idea. That would be one of the funniest things by using quotation socialism to make it happen. How else would you make it happen other than socialism? You have to pay them. People in the United States aren't going to work for $5 an hour to do this shit, or $7.50. Minimum wage job? I don't think so. Physical labor? You better pay me $30 a fucking hour to get me on the line, right? It's the United States. People would rather be unemployed instead of working shit jobs. You're going to have to pay them. We'll see if that 50 billion is a facilitation of some sort of domestication of semiconductors being produced here. And there's certainly a reason to do so. If you just think about supply chain ideas, NVIDIA now talking about the server thing, I would say that there's probably there's going to be some sort of speculation we can try to get a part of with this news and everything that's going on. With NVIDIA doing so well here, we're going to keep pushing this trade. But again, I took those trades. I would definitely be looking for those to get going. And then obviously the biggest thing today is clean energy get fucked. And we consider these ideas of clean energy, solar, right? All of these ideas of solar, a part of that. Now, these companies are sort of, they're not the ones that are manufacturing these things, right? But this is where that industrial side comes in, where if the manufacturing does heat up, which it's going to, then those would be the companies. What did well today was the industrial side. Value, the averages are really hard to look at, but when you look at value overall, what did well today was this manufacturing side of things. And so when you start to go through some of these things and look at them, the company, and so again, to go into the fundamental ideas a little bit in terms of, well, I mean, it's just sector based, right? And it's all about the spending and in the flows, right? What's doing right now are the things that are going to be producing, right? What's going to come back the quickest and what's going to be spending money? Where does the flows directly go? All the spending, they go to the players that are actually going to be doing shit, right? Building things. And so industrials, manufacturing, when you start to go through the top of the list on the most recent tickers, besides banks did very well today. The finance side, fintech, almost all of these are some sort of manufacturing, industrials, right? This whole sector, sort of electronic, this sort of thing here, right? Building electronics, equipment, chips, all this stuff. This is getting direct flows, which again is what I talked about when we talk about supply. If something is going on the supply chain or something's going on the economic side of an entire industry, you will see that start to happen on the equity side where the price will start to react to that. We're seeing a lot of that again, and we saw this at the start when the Dow started to go, because a lot of that again is this direct idea of spending in large companies. They're the ones that will get direct. They'll be the ones getting the first round. You'll see it in the fucking earnings. You're going to see the spending there. So when you start to go through some of the, you see it and you can feel it again. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how today starts to translate into the rest of the week and into next week, because it seems like a lot of our speculation is still going into this idea of where the spending is going to happen. And when you think of today and we look at today, a lot of that is what the flow is. And so like banks, for instance, we know banks are first in line to benefit from what's going on. They are the first in line. They're the first to give out more credit when the economy is going. And the idea of, again, of interest rates coming back, they don't even need to come back. It's the idea that they will. And the idea of the economy opening up and the way yields are working, they're in a really prime spot with low regulation, basically allowed to do whatever they want. They have a ton of cash. They will be able to be the ones with the first opportunity to take advantage of these situations. It's really not hard to see. It's really not hard to see. So when you go through and start to see things like home building continues to do well. Why does home building keep doing well? Because it's the direct benefit of what's going on, right? We've been trending in prices have been increasing for a long time, but with this extra spending and this heating up, it's the very direct. It's like the bank account where the money's going. If that's going up, well, now it's money that you didn't have before. It's happening, and we're seeing it. It's a very mixed bag today. When we look at things like SQ FinTech continue to do well today, but then you look at some things that are down. It was very mixed, but the average stayed up. It is difficult. I would say it did get more difficult today than I expected. When you look at the tickers that did well, tickers that didn't do well, it's very mixed. If you look at the sell side, maybe APH isn't a very good example here. This is already trending down. When you start to look at some of these, it's very mixed. Space getting fucked again today. Okay. FRO, transportation. Transportation's been doing very well. This chart was doing fine, getting fucked. Okay, BW is already coming down. Again, sort of direct competitors. Blink. This clean energy side of thing. What is this price action? What are we seeing here? These sort of things are very difficult today, I would say. Something like Blink, Plug, VLDR even. VLDR is another semi that getting pushed down again from the same thing. These are not even direct competition to NVIDIA. What is this price action we're seeing? It seems to be everything is extremely connected and direct, which makes it a little bit risky to be doing everything that we're doing, because you have the market continuing to trend to all-time high, but there's so many things that you could be in that you could actually get hurt on, right? There's things you could actually get directly hurt on for seemingly no reason. And so I joked about it this morning where I was just going through to look at things where the market is trending up, and basically you could just be a chimp, and we're all chimps, and you could just buy anything. But there's a lot of situations where you're buying things, but it's going down as the market goes up, and it just is like, how is it that every time I buy something, it's going down as the market goes up, right? That could certainly start to happen again here, and we're going to be careful of that because we were in a position where you could basically buy anything, and there was not anything you could really fuck up on, right? And we understood that, and so we didn't let ourselves get ahead of ourselves. We understood that, okay, right now, we're not going to pat ourselves on the back for stock picking. There's some things we will celebrate, but there's other things we'll still be critiquing ourselves on. Right here and today, the market is confirming it's going to continue to trend up, right? But we need to be very careful about what we're doing and even look at getting exposure to maybe more of an average as we're up here, because if you start to see it, we start to really teeter on some of these ideas, and it doesn't really add up, but they're all directly linked to each other where one's up, one's down. There's not a very good way to navigate that. And so we want to be able to capture the move, not get sort of hurt by it, because if we're entering something and it goes down and then we have to make another decision to enter something else, that starts to pile up on itself, and you're spending a lot of time and you're spending a lot of energy to try to get in and out of positions when you could just be capturing something. It's going to be difficult if we're going to continue to see this. Tomorrow, it'll be interesting to see if we get this continuation here, or if maybe we get some more volatility, because again, when you look at mega caps, they get a historical take profit off of this. These should continue based on our idea and what we see in the market. If they do, this should help level out some of the playing field of what we see. But I would say today definitely made things more difficult overall. Again, if the NASDAQ goes all-time high, these will just push through up to their high. These are really straightforward trades. If that does happen, it makes the growth side a little bit more easier because we'll know that those will start to catch up. But as it stands right now, if the idea that we have here of the market continuing to go up, which everything points to it doing that, right? I'm just putting that to make it clear. The market is absolutely doing that. It's continued just to trend up. There is no stopping from what we see so far. But if it doesn't and it gets held up here, we definitely have some things that are in positions that are not really doable, right? The clean energy thing doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make much sense here. It's continued to consolidate, but it's so off and on. Why are people buying here just to sell here, right? There's something, a direct connection to people selling this to buy something else. I don't see them buying just fucking regional banks. It doesn't really add up. The money's not there. And so what exactly is that price action? What's the best way to capture it all, right? What's the best way to capture it all? Is the risk reward better just to buy SPY contracts up here? It wasn't down here, but hey, maybe it is the best thing to do up here if we get into a situation where we have this very back and forth price action where you have mega caps up one day, next day they're down, which makes it hard for options. Maybe they trend up over a week. But there's some times when you can have, like if we look at the Apple chart, right? It's down today. Depending on where you enter, if you were able to push over an entire week, maybe you have good profit. But there might be a time during that move that you had to get pushed out of the position. And so then you had to retake a trade. Those multiple trades to make a trade work based on a short-term trade are very difficult when long-term investors can just buy something and it just keeps climbing up, right? We're trying to operate in very short-term areas to build up very big percent gains, right? Sometimes when we get into the market over here where things are all up and down and they're kind of the timing's off, but everything's still climbing, sometimes it's better just to capture the overall move, right? Tomorrow, if we do get more volatility while the market trends, then I'm going to look to start to maybe look for areas in which, so for instance, like XLF, right? Using XLF has been looking to be the best sort of situation. Maybe still pinpointing like Bank of America has worked better, But when we start to look at some of these things, there might be areas where capturing on some of those ETFs, capture not only the flows that are continuing to go to ETFs, but to mitigate some of the back and forth nature that we're seeing up here. Because again, like today, if you were just in SMH, you probably did a little bit better if you had already been in this position because you didn't need to manage it. Obviously, still being able to gain on NVIDIA would have been nice. But there's some of these ideas might creep in right now. Also, what are people doing if they haven't already entered the market? They're not entering individual companies here. It is and has been the best decision to enter individual companies on this move here. But up here, coming into a high, I want us to start to propose the idea that maybe using some of the ETFs instead might be the best way to be able to get all of our cash into the market and mitigate our risk. It is an idea, and it's definitely possible up here that is the best situation. So I'm going to start to think about that tonight. Maybe look at all the ETFs, find out where our flows are best, see if we could do that. Because again, some of these ideas were definitely spread and sporadic. Maybe the next time we capture travel, it won't be trying to figure out what the hell was going on here, right? And figure out individual companies like, yeah, I can buy Delta here at the support. That was the plan. I did that. But again, it's a mixed bag. It's a complete mixed bag when we start to look at things like travel. It's all short-term volatility. We've known that's been short-term volatility, hard to pinpoint in time. I don't want to spend my time trying to time the market up here. We can time it on pullbacks because of tightening in those ideas. We have no timing up here. There's no such thing. There is no such thing as timing up here, right? Those ETFs might be the best way. So that's something to look for because, again, today I did way too much trading for the market to be going through all-time high. There's no reason why I should be dicking around trying to figure out, should I be buying BA here? How's my GE position doing here? I keep pushing that. Well, my BA's down, my GE's up. How's my SPR position doing here? I'm like, okay, well, this is, maybe I can get this. I don't know. How's my retail stores doing? Well, my Foot Locker position's doing fucking great. I keep going through here, but then I got like positions when I look at GPS. I'm like, can I buy this again now? Because I didn't get it back over here and I exited it over on this trade. I look at Macy's and I'm like, okay, well, I just finally got this back through. What's the timing? These are all different timings. Okay, we have things like Uber. Okay, we got a gap on Uber, but then we started to pull back. But it's not, again, there's like all these things they're all connected, but they seem to be, again, based on people's wanting to spend in some areas, some in not. The only thing that's been consistent is our banks, right? We have apps that continues to fucking bounce back and forth. Are we going up? Are we going down? Like, how many times do I have to enter a trade? I mean, do I have to enter on every single one of these whips into the support? Like, I'm going to buy it every time. Do I need to exit here, or am I going to get pegged back down to here tomorrow, right? That's the kind of shit I don't want to be doing if I can just capture and move over time. It's definitely something to keep in mind and be warranted on, right? Removing all the ideas, of course, of our charts that are trading in between these levels. We're going to continue to trade those accordingly because, again, everything is climbing up and we expect all the NASDAQ and growth tickers to climb through their highs and everything else, right? Again, our current positions, everything that are working well and we keep trending outside of those are the ones I'm talking about, right? I'm talking about trying to get these new positions and manage these new positions that we have that are sort of seemingly doing many different things, right? We have many different things going on. We're trying to capture things and they seem to all be moving on their own sort of accord, right? We have a lot of positions that are doing very well. So again, we're doing very well, but I want us to get ahead of the game because today seemingly has set up some volatility, not in the sense of the market exiting its trend, but the positions within that average are sort of all rolling around that average, right? We're kind of going up by having short-term volatility all over the place. Something to keep in mind. Let me take a look at the profit section. What do we got here? 37% on apps. It says Wiz. Awesome. That was definitely, again, we just looked at that. That was definitely a very nice chart. Trade down into the support. I talked about it at open that I'd be willing to buy that down on the support. It's not like the other charts. I'd buy it down on support. We bought on support. We saw the tightening live. That was a nice trade. LSU with the 0.5% loss. That's a tough one right there. The almost 1%er. Boom with the minus 3% stops and longs. That's like a very nice slogan. LSU asked, "Where's the party after 34K?" The Dow is probably the next. Is probably going to do the best this week, I would say. If we look at the overall, value seemed to do very well today. I would say the Dow does the best this week. If I had to make a bet, the Dow would be. I mean, we're right at 34,000. I'm surprised we didn't. I'm surprised we actually haven't hit it yet, but it hasn't stopped going up. That's for sure. I would say the Dow does the best because of banks. Again, we have earnings on Wednesday. What this does for the move, I mean, it shouldn't make any difference at all. There shouldn't be almost any difference at all. The only difference I would see is, again, these regional banks in their reaction because they're down here. This could very much be a very big move. And the individual banks that we've looked at, they certainly could make a big move. You have like things like Santander moving here already. It's not to say this is, it's very much a very different sort of style. But these kind of trades here, they will lead if there's something there. They'll stand out. If there's something there, it'll stand out, right? And we trade that kind of thing. Same with, we've seen it in the past of energy. Energy will start to make a move if there's something there. Again, there's some gamma squeeze kind of ideas coming, but we actually saw the gamma negatively affected because the acceleration didn't continue. So if we look at things like, I mean, again, let me see, let me go to the sell side here. Okay, GME, 11%, GoPro, 10%. This is acceleration not continuing. You get all this move from the last week, and then it doesn't continue. What happens? Well, we no longer need to be hedged against these calls. Start to sell on the underlying, and it causes momentum to get going. And you can see it, right? You can see it really start to just, the positions come off, and it's just, that's it, right? This is going to swing back and forth all week. These are all just day trades. If you start to take gamma squeezes at this point, they're day trades. You don't dick around with them, right? There's a lot of positions that are like that. And again, AMC, all of these, the whole gamma idea, it's continuing whatever the move was doing before. Or if it doesn't continue the acceleration, it really sells off, right? That's something to be careful of if you're trying to dick around with these positions like I've been. They're getting violent moves like they're supposed to. That's the whole point of them, right? Where's the, let me see. Okay, so the whole Archegos thing, these moves don't seem to be coming in towards the upside or anything like that, which means they're just, there's nothing really here to see. This move, it started to make the move off the low, and then all it's done is trend down so far when we look at Discovery and Viacom. I was trying to see if we could get something in here. And listen, I mean, there's a ton of trades in here that you can make. I mean, there's a lot of percent and there's a lot of volatility. This trade in here was fine. There was points to be made. You had to get out of it from just obvious rules-based trading. These are not things I'm going to be trying to dick around with going into Friday or anything like that. It's going to be a waste of time, I would say. Viacom did a little bit better over here, but even that finished just lower and lower today. It came down to the low. We're not going to screw around with it. It seemed like there might be something. I would say that people are hesitant. There might be exposure out there that we don't know of because no one's seen the actual books or what actually went on with any of these trades. So I would say that there's still some risk out there. We were betting that there wouldn't be. That didn't happen. No one got hurt on it, I would have to imagine, but because you would have already had to get beat up by it. But yeah, those positions definitely did not have not produced anything since, so we're going to kind of ignore those. The other thing I want to mention are things like pawn stocks here. This kind of candle in here just tells us that there's not much to know in here. There's a lot of uncertainty here. And again, this is that back and forth that I was talking about that we saw today, is that you get a big buy day like this. You get sort of a normal take profit day on Friday, and then this candle, what is that? What the hell is that? Like who has long positions and is trading like this? So again, this kind of thing here, this would, this isn't really a trend in here, but that would be a bearish candle, right? That would be a very bearish candle with this big outside bar here. You don't think about this, right? Look at the highs. Look at the difference between the highs and low here from just the high and the low from the last candle. Not to mention the entire from low to high here of almost 13%. That's 13% intraday. That kind of thing, I say, no thank you. I'm out of there. This is the kind of thing I'm talking about where how can you be in a position if you have that much movement? Yeah, you're trending up and it's going to keep trending up. But how can you be in an options position? You can't be. You're in shares, you're doing great. You're having a good time. You don't care. There's only 3%. Let it bounce around all you want. If we're in options, you're having mini panic attacks all day. I'm not going to do that, right? So I'm out of that because again, if your position's doing this kind of shit, what do you like? Who in their right mind is going to hold through any of that shit? Nobody. So you have to exit the position, right? There's a lot of those things today that again, this is the kind of thing I'm talking about. It can keep trending up, and that's great, but that's not our kind of trading. We don't buy to hold through a bunch of shit that we don't know what's happening, right? If we don't know what's happening, we're not going to be involved. That's the kind of thing there that that's going to keep me up at night. So I'm not going to do that. I'm definitely not going to do that, right? So again, let's I'm going to do a lot of looking through the market tonight and looking through charts to see what exactly we should obviously what's been doing very well and continuing. As a market bias, we understand the market's being very risk on continuing, but we want to find those individual positions that maybe we want to scrap. Anything with too much volatility, probably scrap it. We want to bet on volatility, not be in the volatility. We want to sell when the volatility starts. So those ones are getting scrapped. We want to be able to continue this trend and bet on this trend continuing with velocity. So there's definitely some ideas of SPY calls, Q calls. Obviously, I've been doing a lot of QLD, SPXL, the leverage ETFs. Those continue to perform very well. Those are difficult, but those are good ways to when I talk about betting on the move to continue. It's buying QLD calls over here that are going to pay for that idea, right? It's this kind of move here. So keep those in mind if you didn't look at those charts. These are again the leveraged ETFs of the indexes themselves. And so it's this kind of thing where by continuing to put this trade on, you are betting that it's going to continue that move there. Those kind of ideas are a good way to capture the move if the all-time high is coming, and which again the market's signaling it's going to. But even if there's a pullback tomorrow or something like an actual take profit day, these are the kind of things that you can buy on those pullbacks that you're going to be able to get the leverage and the speed, and you're going to get a lot of points for it. If there's a 1% pullback tomorrow and you buy on that and then it goes up 1% the next day, you're going to make 50, 100% on those type of trades, right? That's the kind of shit we want to look for. But I'm going to try to come out with some charts and stuff today that will help with some of those ideas because, I mean, some of the shit didn't do anything and that's fine. But some things were definitely a little volatile and looked a little stingy today. So we'll see. We'll see. I have to look at stuff. I really don't know. I can't see it intraday, so I have to look after. So I'll come out with some ideas tonight. I'll come up with some shit to talk about pre-market for sure to get us prepared for if we get more sort of mixed bag tomorrow, because sideways trading days we want to take advantage of while still using our bias of trending up, right? We want to be able to mix those two and fondle some options. So I'll see what we can find tonight, or what I can find tonight. Otherwise, some really great trades. The Baba trade was obviously a lot of fun and improved some points. So I will see you guys in the morning. Have a good night, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. And until then.